compensation, formal apology recommended for parents of autistic boy held in a locked room. More soon. Jeff Stein, Mike DeBonis and Patrick Rice. Last updated 14:30, December 18, 2017. Republicans returned to Congress on Monday facing a packed agenda with little time to enact it, as party leaders aim to quickly pass the massive tax plan and then cut a budget deal with Democrats before the end of Friday to avert a government shutdown. Republicans' tight timing on taxes is self-imposed. Republican lawmakers have for months been racing to beat U.S. President Donald Trump's demand that they send him tax legislation before Christmas, a timeline that gained a new urgency when Alabama Democrat Doug Jones won the Senate seat currently occupied by Republican Senator Luther Strange. Republican leaders aim to hold tax votes early in the week before moving to the budget bill. They need Democrats' help to pass the budget measure through the Senate, and thus far they've made little progress bringing them aboard. Amid disagreements over spending levels, protection from deportation for certain undocumented immigrants, and a federal health insurance program for low-income children. Read more. U.S. Senate narrowly says yes to near $2.1 trillion tax bill. U.S. House passed sweeping tax legislation, sending measures to Senate. Trump and Republicans' tax bill. Worse for the poor than first thought. The outcome of the tax votes, however, appears certain after Republican Senators Marco Rubio, Florida, and Bob Corker, Tennessee, on Friday pledged the support. The duo gave the Republican the Senate votes to pass the bill, even as Senator John McCain, R. Arizona, who is battling an aggressive form of brain cancer, returned to Arizona on Sunday and is not expected to vote on the final bill. The measure's passage would mark the first major legislative accomplishment for Trump and party leaders in a year of stumbles, the products of months of negotiations and a string of late adjustments aimed at winning over the party's final few holdouts. Republicans fanned out across national news shows on Sunday as part of the continued efforts to sell the public on the bill, promising benefits to the middle class both from tax cuts and ensuing economic growth. President Donald Trump's Republicans face their own intra-party tensions. He thinks as a result of lowering business taxes, wages will go up. So, this is a huge opportunity for creating jobs, for creating tax cuts for working families. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said Sunday on CNN's State of the Union. Congress nonpartisan tax analysts, joining several other nonpartisan assessments, concluded that the bulk of the bill's benefits would go to the wealthy and corporations. Those analyses have also projected that the cuts will produce far less economic growth than Trump and administration officials are promising. The plan, first unveiled in final form on Friday afternoon, would make the biggest changes to the U.S. tax code in 3 decades, most significantly dropping the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. The bill also would cut taxes for nearly all individuals, giving the biggest trims to the wealthy but in most cases providing some relief for the middle class. Polls suggest the public is skeptical of major gains for the middle class. A recent CBS poll found that 76% of Americans believe the bill's biggest benefits would go to the largest corporations. Democrats aim to hammer the point home on Sunday after getting shut out of the bill's construction and now finding themselves powerless to stop it. What we are seeing here is a real massive attack on the middle class, Senator Bernie Sanders, I Vermont, who caucuses with Democrats in the Senate, said on Sunday on CBS Face the Nation. Republicans plan to hold tax votes in the House and Senate early in the week, but the bigger drama may come later, when leaders from both parties weigh a spending deal to avoid a partial government shutdown before funding runs out at the end of Friday. While the tax debate has consumed Congress, there has been scant progress toward a spending deal. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin appeared on CNN's State of the Union on Sunday as part of efforts to sell the public on the tax bill. House Republican leaders filed a spending bill last week that would temporarily extend funding for most government agencies at current levels until January 19, while providing longer-term military funding at higher levels, $650 billion, $928 billion, through September 30. But it is considered dead on arrival in the Senate, where Democrats can block it because of the chamber's 60-vote filibuster threshold. To cut a long-term spending deal, Democrats are pushing for an equivalent increase in defense and non-defense funding above the spending caps set under a 2011 budget agreement, one similar to agreements reached in 2013 and 2015 to raise the caps for the following 2 years. But bipartisan negotiations that have been open for weeks have yet to produce an accord. Democrats railed against the House shutdown, but last week, Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer, D. New York, in floor remarks on Thursday, called the proposal a spectacle, a charade, a sop to some militant, hard-right people who don't want the government to spend money on almost anything. Sign up for the latest news from Trump's America, he added, and it is a perilous waste of time as the clock ticks closer and closer and closer to the end of the year. The spending talks are suffused with other issues. For instance, Democrats and some Republicans want legislation providing legal status to dreamers, immigrants brought to the United States as children without documentation, to be attached to the year-end deal. Senator Susan Collins, R. Maine, struck a deal with Trump and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, R. Kentucky, to provide subsidies for the Affordable Care Act health insurance marketplaces in return for her vote on the tax bill, but it remains to be seen whether those provisions will be included in any final accord. The Children's Health Insurance Program expired on September 30th, and states have been warning for weeks the coverage could be threatened if Congress does not reauthorize it soon. And a key surveillance authority used by U.S. intelligence agencies to monitor non-citizens abroad expires on December 31st, prompting fears of a lapse in national security. Even if a bipartisan agreement is reached on some or all of these issues, the timeline is tight. The House is not expected to vote on its spending bill until Wednesday at the earliest. That would leave little time for the Senate to take the bill, amend it, and send it back to the House, and any hiccup could mean a breach of the Friday shutdown deadline. Congress averted a partial shutdown earlier this month with a 2-week deal that left spending constant and punted on all other policy questions, but it's unclear if either side has interest in another short-term deal. For Democrats, the vote represents a moment of leverage in a Congress in which Republicans have used the control of government to shut the minority party out of the legislative process almost entirely. With enough Senate votes to filibuster any deal, party leaders Schumer and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, D. California, R.